All right, everybody, Poppy the Pink Troll here with the Pink Mohawk. And if you're watching this, you can laugh at the Pink Mohawk. But I'm back with another episode. And today it is me and our incredible CEO, Ashley, talking about the last event. And here's why. Because we have another one coming up in like 47 days in November in Whitefish, Montana. And we are going to be crushing. We're going to be helping with mindset on day one, marketing strategies on day two, and customer journey on day three to tie them all together in the right order. But we had such a good time at the event, so many breakthroughs and takeaways. We had to do an entire episode dedicated to it. So some of the things we talked about in today's episode, we talked about choosing the right venue and creating a comfortable environment and how that can enhance the experience of the event and the breakthroughs and clarity that you receive. How I prepare and Ashley prepares mentally, emotionally, and physically to be able to give our best. How the event attracted a diverse range of business owners, including coaches, consultants, physical product sellers, and nonprofit founders. The schedule layout on how we broke down customer journey, marketing, and mindset and why it works so well for the attendees, the frameworks and strategies provided at the event, and how it helped attendees gain clarity to take action in their business. And this led to one of the most important things, increase in confidence, then crystal clarity and alignment for attendees to have clear next action steps to build and scale their business. And one of the things that I want to say is that if you're ever thinking about doing events or also run them now, this episode will be really beneficial for you to kind of hear behind the scenes of why we're keeping the same structure and facilitating the way that I am, and why people that have been to a previous event keep coming back to other ones, because at every event, we're in a different stage of business with different perspective and different information to apply into our business. So we also get into like the clear structure and frameworks and what we provided on how easier to implement the information. And I had dental surgery this morning, so half my face is numb if you're wondering why I look really funny right now. And how the VIP day allowed for personalized coaching and deep clarity on individual goals. So there were shifts across the board in mindset, taking ownership of the business, embracing both celebration and feedback. And really, the event at the core highlighted the importance of self-care, setting boundaries, and having a plan to succeed so that we can have the results that we want. So the next event is scheduled for November 14th through 16th in Montana. And if you have not grabbed your seat, DM me on Instagram with the word event, or just go to mindofgeorge.com/event, because I am ready. We are ready. We have the Airbnb. We have the speaker set. Kate Perkovic will be there. TJ Fry will be there, and we will be giving you all the juicy nuggets, all the love, the high fives, the takeaways, the clarity, and building a community as a team to help you build and scale your business. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show, where this one's already guaranteed to be more fun because it's not just me, but it is my absolute savage of a teammate and the queen of all things magical and making everything work. Ashley's here with us today. Ashley, how are you, girl?
We are good. The sun is shining. We are caffeinated, and I'm ready to chat all event with you today.
We are going to be doing an event recap of our event. When was that? Was that like a month ago?
In August. It seems
It
like
was
it
yeah.
was forever ago at this point.
Yeah, it was only a couple of weeks ago, but we like to do these like 3 to 4 weeks after, as the kind of dust has settled. And it's kind of perfect because we already have the next event scheduled, and it's in Montana in November. What is it? 14, 15,
15th,
16?
16th. Yeah.
November 14th, 15th, and 16th. We've already sold a couple tickets, and we're capping it like we did at the last one. And if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, we'll have everything linked in the show notes. But it's really, really easy. mindofgeorge.com/event. We would love to have you because we made some changes the last event, which I'm sure we're going to talk about today. And I was not just the only one speaking, but we kind of had the best lineup ever. And we're going to keep the same lineup because it was so profound and transformative for people to work on all those different levels and angles. And so we already have the page up. It's already updated and it's perfect. Kids are back in school, but come to Montana. It will be absolutely gorgeous. Not all the ground will be covered in snow yet, but you'll get to see fall, leaf color changes, and partying in an Airbnb at this event. So go to mindofgeorge.com event, grab it. I promise you, grab it, grab it, grab it. So, and by the way, on the sun comment, I just got home from Croatia because I was there for Jake and Kat's wedding. We love you, Jake and Kat. You looked incredible, newlyweds. And I forgot that we're getting into winter. So I woke up this morning like all time discombobulated, because it was like an 8-hour difference for 5 days. And then the sun's back to only coming up at like 7:15 in the morning here. And I was like, okay, winter's coming. So I had to wait for my sunshine this morning. So I'm going to soak it all in while we have it because it's still warm, but the cold is coming.
Yeah, I'm excited though. Very, very excited for the fall leaves. I think I might have seen it last year, a little bit, but I'm very excited to see the full fledged of fall in Montana.
Oh yeah, it'll be gorgeous. And I'm also very much like, let's just talk about gratitude. I had no coffee in Croatia because the espresso they had was not good. I tasted one, so I was like coffeeless for like 6 days, which was probably, secretly good for me. And if none of you have ever been to Dubrovnik, I guess they filmed Game of Thrones there because it was like Game of Thrones tourism crazy. But one of the like most historical, beautiful places I've ever seen. I just sweated like a donkey. I don't know if donkeys sweat, but I'm just going to use donkey. Uh, and I didn't have coffee. And so I have been savoring this coffee, as you said, caffeinated for like the last 2 hours. And like every sip is just like heaven hitting my taste buds right now. So I'm totally ready to talk about events. So I'm gonna let you drive because you do this, you have the questions. We'll kind of go back and forth. But for everybody, uh, we love doing these because this event was incredible. So many incredible people, so many incredible things and things to share. And really, we just want to share people's takeaways, our perspective, and know that we're here to support you. So if you have any questions about the event, if you have been to one before, we love you. We'd love to have you back because everyone is different, but also just reach out to one of us. We have my Instagram. We'll have Ashley's Instagram linked in the show notes, but we're genuinely here to serve and support you and create these containers that give you not only the strategies and tactics, but also the mindset and the community of people that will be the accelerant and rocket fuel for your business, especially with the way things are changing and the way times are going right now. And so let's get into it, girl.
Okay, so let's set the scene first and foremost. And let's talk about the Airbnb. Why did you choose this specific Airbnb? And when you arrived, how did the Airbnb feel to you?
That's a good question. So to give some context to people, I've been doing events for a decade now, over a decade. And I've done them in the smallest conference rooms you can imagine, like a boardroom in a hotel, to cold conference rooms, all the way up to giant rooms with bougie lights. We've rented private wineries, and Ashley and I had a lot of clarity. I think it was a couple events ago, we were getting ready to do another one at a hotel in Dallas. And we were both kind of in the bucket of like, something doesn't feel right. God's tickling our heart in a different direction. And Ashley, being the incredible teammate and CEO she is, just let it linger on my side, as she should have. And it hit me one day. And the only thing that I prayed about was like, God, give me clarity. And the only thing that hit me was four walls and feelings. And my mission in this world of entrepreneurship is to bring connection and community back at the deepest level, because rising tides rise all ships. And I have genuinely noticed that when we are in an Airbnb or in somebody's home, it feels like home. And it brings this level of connection and safety and comfort where it creates the experience that I want to be created, which is a ton of colleagues and peers hanging out and supporting each other at the deepest of level, not who's on stage, who's got the best intro song, who can do the best entrance onto the keynote stage, but like genuinely, like we're all on equal playing ground and on the field together. And like, that's why I love Airbnbs. And I told Ash, for now, that's where we're keeping it until some hotel conference room converts itself into a living room that I feel like I want to live in. We're sticking with the Airbnbs. And this one particularly, we did this one in Montana, and Ash had found some options. And I went looking, and quite frankly, I'm a big proponent of environmental design. And this
Mhm.
Airbnb and the next one that we're doing in November, they both have one thing in common, and they have a lot of space outside in nature, space connected to nature and water, and the ability to have areas to go, but also to soak in all the magic of our environment. And I feel like environment's missed in a lot of our days, in a lot of our day-to-days, and environmental design is huge. And so this house, literally, I told Ash when we walked in, I was like, I love the woman who owns this home. I feel like we're in our home. And she's like, you are in her home. But she left up pictures of like her family, and it just felt like a home away from home. And everybody said it. We were sitting on couches, and in the living room, we were having conversations around the fire pit. There was a trampoline in the backyard, which we will need to change our waivers for the next one if we have one of those again, because there might have been an injury or two. you get some entrepreneurs together on a trampoline and things get crazy. But for me, I want to create the experience that allows us to feel our best and to feel comfortable so that we can be in our best, whatever that is. Like if it's an up, if it's a down, if it's a low, or if it's a high, that we just feel safe being in it and feel supported so we can focus on what matters, right? And focusing on what matters is like, what adjustments can I make in my business? What are the things that I can learn? Who can I learn them from? Do I have space to connect with people? Is there a place for us to share meals or have conversations? Not, all right, guys, it's break time. Everybody run to the hotel lobby. Everybody go to the bathrooms, run away from each other, walk down these cold
Mm-hmm.
hallways, go run out for food. And so even us, we had people Uber eating food, and we were just creating community at the deepest level and watching each other, myself included, Ashley included, connect with everybody on a deep human level because of the environment that we chose. And so that's why I loved that Airbnb. It had a wraparound porch just staring at the mountains. And the next one, because we have a few options that we're looking at, but I'm pretty clear on the one, is right next to the water, a space in nature, place to like go out and connect and have space if needed. And also the facilitation space just being connected and wide open and full of natural light and having sunrises in Montana and being able to see the trees and nature. Like I think bringing more of that is kind of like my mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree with you. And I think the big takeaway for me of that is that a lot of times we get so set on like, here's the options, these are the only options. But really, for like us and our relationship as like visionary and integrator, like me giving you a couple options that gives you like almost a permission slip to be like, these don't feel good, but wait, I found this one. And it like gives you the starting point as opposed to you feeling like, oh, I got to figure out all of these different things and go through all of the options. You're just like, I know this is a no, 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 but I'm very clear now on what is a yes. And I think that's even just like us figuring out the Airbnb space because we kind of like for the Dallas event, we were just like, okay, this one will work. We're going to go for it. And then we found the things that we liked and disliked to then be able to find this one.
Yeah, and I love that. I think it was huge, and like even just thinking through that Dallas event to this one, like things that we loved. We loved having a big kitchen because we realized everybody was hanging out in the kitchen on
Mm-hmm.
breaks. And after the event wrapped, we let people hung out, and we had the same thing here. And then on that first one, we had a big backyard space with grass and people to congregate. And then this one was kind of the same thing, and it allowed us to do things differently too. Like when we'd wrap the event for the day, we'd all go outside together and take a breath of fresh air and put our bare feet on the grass and like really just come in. And then my favorite part is like nobody left. Everybody sat in the
Mm-hmm.
grass in the sun together and just kept talking and sharing ideas and facilitating breakthroughs with each other. And like I think the space is such a powerful component of that. So I'm really excited about the next one.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious to know, like, you had talked a little bit in regards to with like event prep, but for you, how do you prep your mind, your heart, and your body for events like this?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. How do I prep my mind, my body, and my heart? So my body is a big part of this. I genuinely love facilitating more than anything. Ash can vouch for this all day. There's nothing that makes me happier other than bringing a collective room of people together. And my body is something that I love and I cherish now. And I finally have a relationship with that I love. But even leading up to this event, I spent about a week just resting, like genuinely resting, like not going to the gym, eating really clean, drinking a lot of water, and almost like preparing for the Super Bowl. My heart was a big part of this. I spent a lot of time in prayer for this event and really setting my intention. And what I love about this event, it was a couple-hour drive away from the house, and I got to drive up with a lot of our staff. And so in the car, we were talking about who's coming and what our intention is and what we want to create. And my mind is probably the one that I struggle with the most. The amount of imposter syndrome that I still face and that still comes up, which is normal. But Ash will tell you, like, I'm like, I want to teach 8,000 things. And I'm like, no, 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 outcomes. And so really taking the time to really create the container and like, this is where we're going to get to. We want everybody to truly understand customer journey. We want them to have a marketing framework that allows them to have the confidence and the know how to leave and go really stand in their truth and attract their ideal client and communicate with them effectively and also know how to make adjustments to that. And a lot of that in my mind is preparing myself to go from podcast mode of teaching to facilitator mode of asking questions and guiding people there. And it's a muscle. It's a big, big, big muscle. And for this event, I did something very, very different. Is normally at the events when we go on breaks or we do lunch breaks, I keep myself in the room and in the conversation. And after a couple of years, I realized that by the end, I'm emotionally tapped and gassed. Like I can keep going, but people don't get my best. And at this event, I was very intentional about, like, when we took breaks, I took a break as well. I would go outside and refill my bucket, and I would take space, and I would go reflect and go journal and go release things. And then when I came back, I was ready to go. And so for me, it was also a massive muscle for me to flex of, like, even what we teach, of like being intentional with your time and space, having your structure and your consistency and protecting it. Because all I want to do is be like, we're all together. I want to spend every minute with you. I don't want to take a break. I don't want to sleep. But this event was huge. I made a plan. I made a plan to make sure I get my sleep every night. I made a plan to hit my supplements every day. I woke up at the same time and I kept all my practices. And that's not something I've done at other events. I would just stay in the room and I would almost become obsessed with the room instead of protecting myself to be able to operate in the room. And so I set a big intention of, like, what I want and what I stand for. And I remind myself of that intention over and over. And we had some moments at the event with people I love of, like, stickiness or side conversations. And I just had to keep coming back to that intention. I'm like, we're going to land the plane. We're going to land the plane. And we always land the plane. But
Always.
on the inside, there's so many things that are in, for lack of better terms, turmoil, right? Of just like, did I say the right thing? Did I teach the right thing? And navigating what's fact versus feeling, and then sticking to the facts and then making decisions based on the facts. And so this event for me was the best I've ever felt. And it also had a byproduct, because the amount of connection that was created in the room, like we saw people going on breaks and continuing to facilitate for each other, taking them through questions and asking them, when did you decide that? And have you thought about it this way? And have you done this way? And it created so much more clarity for everybody and such a deeper connection for people in the room that created lifelong friendships because of my intentionality of honoring myself and honoring my buckets, and especially number one, eating, right? Because Ashley knows this. Like at normal events, she used to be like, eat. What do you want for food? What do you want for food? And this one, I was just very intentional about treating myself as like a professional athlete so I could give the best that I had, but also knowing that I would have the energy, the sleep, the fuel, the water to do it. And so this one felt the best to me.
100%. And I would say also too, like even on day one, I noticed so many people who immediately cracked open even before lunch. They were just like open, ready. And I do believe, and you can add to this as well, that all of your prep before and your example before then created that result. Is there anything else that you believe contributed to people feeling safe enough to crack open on day one?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I don't know how to say this without just kind of like rawly exposing myself, but hindsight's 2020. When Ashley met me and I was doing events, my intention has always been to facilitate learning and breakthroughs and connection. But there's a part of me in the early part of me where the events were almost all about me and my performance rather than the results that people were getting. And not ever ill-intentioned, just I was unaware, or I was ignorant to the fact that that was a part of my chapter and my learning process. And I've worked very, very hard on myself to be as grounded and clear and quite frankly, just in love with myself as I am in navigating life. And I noticed that. I noticed how quickly it felt like we were all in the trenches together in the most positive way. Like there was no masks, there were no shadows, there were no egos. It was a group of people committed to like, let's play, like, let's just play the game together. And I even realized too, is that so many previous events, and I've been to a lot of them, and I preach about like how I don't like the transactions and I don't like this. We're so much about hitting wickets of like, did I hit every ground rule? Did I prep it all the same? Did I hit this perfectly? Instead of allowing the game to come out. And I even looked at Ashley after day one. I was like, I missed so many ground rules that I normally cover and I normally talk about, but I realized that a lot of those ground rules were for me. They weren't necessarily about the event or having people get the best outcome. And there was a level of trust that I had in myself and belief that I had in myself. And I was like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years. Maybe it's time that I start trusting that I can play this game, but also
Mhm.
keeping it about everybody in the room. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely stupendous. And it was truly a co-created event where everything was an invitation. Like, I'd like to do this. Who'd like to play? And then, we go play. And then the facilitation and the breakthroughs were huge. And quite frankly, everybody's depth cracked me wide open. I mean, I feel like I grew like 10 years in that 3-day event. Even in clarity, the amount of stuff I learned kind of blew my mind. And it was learning to go back to the basics of like, oh, I used to do that. Oh, it's time to do that again. Or, oh, I used to think about it like that. It's time to think about that again. Or I haven't seen that perspective, and that perspective would really serve and support me right now. And so I feel like I humbled myself, and that's weird to say, but genuinely to like, I genuinely felt like my job was to just hold the space and allow everybody to fill the space in. And then I became a student in the process and almost just threw a sheet of music out. I'm like, do you guys want to play this song? Well, I'm going to play it with you. I'm going to grab this instrument. You guys grab these instruments, and we all kind of co-create together is what it felt like.
100%. And so before we get into those like takeaways, lessons, aha moments, which we're definitely going to talk about, I would love for you to speak a little bit about the type of business owners that were in the room from your perspective.
Oh yeah, wow. We had a spread on this one. Boy, did we
Mm-hmm.
have a spread. We had nonprofits. We had people who were turning personal tragedy into nonprofits. We had coaches. We had physical products. We had breathwork facilitators. We have uh, psychological coaches. We had a team of a company doing multiple 8 figures that teach people business online. We had consultants. We had people who had made literally 9 and 10 figures coming back to their heart and figuring out how to bring alignment and process back into their business. We had every personality type you could imagine. We had the
Facts.
operators, we had the visionaries, we had the analyticals, and I'd say that this was like geographically, we had a couple recovering attorneys. I think geographically the biggest spread that we had, but we almost hit every bucket of entrepreneurship at this event, and all had similar levels of like clarity and breakthroughs from agencies. So yeah, it was agencies, consultants, coaches, physical products, facilitators, right? Meditation, breathwork facilitators, corporate people, teams of giant companies, some physical products, launching physical products, nonprofits, and everything in between. Who did I miss?
I mean, I think the best way to summarize it would be everybody and their grandma was there.
Everybody and their grandma, but just so you know, and also to speak to the different revenue levels.
Yeah.
We had people who just literally quit their job 8 weeks ago or 9 weeks ago in the lens of social work, who's like just at the early stages of starting to coach. And we had someone in the room who's done hundreds of millions of dollars in the same room, learning from each other and sharing ideas and mutually benefiting on both sides. We had, coaches and consultants like me. We had mindset coaches, NLP coaches. We kind of had the whole range, and even in the range of revenue, meaning like it is genuinely for everybody. And there were so many people that were playing leapfrog with each other, right? The 9-figure
Mm-hmm.
business was sharing with the person starting, who helped them with their perspective. But then the person starting helped the 9-figure business with a perspective shift to come back to the core of what matters. And so there was so much collaboration happening where all parties were benefiting because of that spread that we have. And we even had so many beautiful divergent ideas because of the industry spreads, to where I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'd never thought about it like that, or that would be an incredible way to do it. Oh yeah, fitness people,
Yeah.
fitness influencers. We had influencers. We had a social media manager. we kind of had the gamut covered, and everybody benefited and supported each other. So yeah, the short answer would be everybody but their grandmother, because nobody actually brought their grandmother, but I totally love if your grandmother came to an event too.
But we did have a baby.
We did have a
which is
baby.
even better.
Oh yeah, we did have a baby. I forgot Aspen was there. We did have a baby. We had an 8-month-old baby there. We had a baby there as well. So yeah, we kind of had it all covered at this one.
All the ages. Okay, so with that being said, lots of different business owners, lots of different revenue types. Thinking through the content, right? Like for most people, they'd be like, that is 8 different conferences alone to be able to cover all the things. And you did one.
Mm-hmm.
So day 1 was like strategy, framework, tactics. Day 2 was like the mindset, personal development. And then we did day 3, which was strategy, frameworks, and tactics again.
Yep.
Do you believe that that specific schedule layout worked of doing like that kind of sandwich? And if so, why?
Yeah, I love that. Right. So to give context to this, right, one of my favorite quotes from a friend of ours, Alex Sharfin, is, you don't have the business you want because you haven't become the person to run it yet. Right. And genuinely, I've learned, and even in my own growth as an entrepreneur, it's not that I don't have the plays in front of me. It's that I'm not looking at the plays from the right level and executing them at that next level. Right. And so one of the things that I'm obsessed with, because all of my best coaches and my mentors that do 8-9 figures, and they've done it religiously, they work in frameworks and outcomes, because frameworks apply to every business and they give you agency or autonomy to execute them for yourself. They're not copy and paste templates. They're not, here's my script, because none of those things work. But it's like, hey, here's the blueprint. Now add your flavor, paint it whatever color you want, and follow this blueprint, and then make it your own. Right. And so I'd say the 3 big, and I mean big areas we hit customer journey, we hit marketing, and we hit mindset. Right. And let me just be really, really clear. I'm also noticing that I genuinely still talk about marketing more than anything, but I label it customer journey, but they're kind of separate, but they're all the same thing, right? Like marketing for me is how we communicate our effective message to build relationships with people and get them into our world, which I just summarize as customer journey. So the way that I think about the 3 days that we did is, we basically, day 1 was current state. Like, where are we? What do we have? What are we bringing into the room? Great. Here's some frameworks to start to think about and plug all those pieces into. Day 2 was, let's unlock your mind and show you how much power you have in your mind with your conscious and unconscious mind, and ways to think about it and find this internal clarity. And then day 3, let's tie it all together with strategies and tactics to be able to move to the next mile marker in your business. And number 1, that layout, that schedule worked like a charm, to the point where I looked at Ashley and I looked at the 2 incredible speakers I had, which was Kate Perkovic and TJ Fry, my best friend and one of my incredible clients and an incredible entrepreneur, Kate is. And I was like, can you guys come to the November event? They're like, yeah. I'm like, I want to do the same thing. And it was so effective because it hit all the wickets, but it was almost like a journey in itself, to where we put all the pieces into place, and we had the awarenesses in our business for everybody that was in the room of where we were. And then we got clarity on where we wanted to go. And then we tied all the pieces into place and made them bite-sized and manageable to be able to take action on them and get the results. And I think the most powerful part of it all was having the mindset right in the middle. And TJ did such a profound job on helping people find their own hidden patterns and their stories, and realizing how much of our actions and behaviors are not conscious, and how much those actions and behaviors take up where we spend most of our time, preventing us from creating those results. And even teaching people how long it takes and what to do to flex the muscle of our mind to change how we operate every day. And so I think it went absolutely wonderful. And also personally, I think me not teaching everything and not having it be just about this shiny little object, because in the past, what we've done is we've had me facilitate, and then we've brought in speakers, but those speakers would talk about almost just a strategy and tactic, or just this one vein to do on Instagram or in your content, but it never tied in. So it was almost like this big left field idea that you're like, where does that fit into the equation? And it felt like this one, And they're all good. Like, I'll just own it. They're all good in my opinion, based on the feedback we get. But this one in particular felt like just across the board, it just worked. It worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
It worked for everybody in the room. It worked for you. And it led to the most beautiful conversations. Like, everything just continued and built upon each other. And we all just kind of stayed in the game. And it's almost like the entire event was an embodiment practice of like how we can all win in our day to day when we operate the same way that we did in the room when we take it home. And there was so many reps put in that people were integrating things into their business and into their day before day one was even over. And then they were
Mm-hmm.
almost rebuilding habits and behaviors to take home with them that would allow them to reach that next level of business or that next level of success, even if it was intrapersonally. And so those are kind of my thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely do believe that the flow 100% worked. It was very much so like for me, like by the end of day one, I want to feel like you got all of your money's worth in the first day. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like day one, like you like knocked it out of the park with all the customer journey because that's what people come to you for. They want the customer journey. And then day two was like a little slip in surprise of like, hey, everything I just taught you in day one isn't going to work if you're constantly undermining yourself, you're constantly cutting yourself into these behaviors. And so it was like day two was like, let's get to the core. Let's get all the trash out so you can implement day one. And then day three was like the cherry on top.
And tying it all together and like, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
1,000%. And even like the model that Kate taught that she'll teach again at the next one, like the elevation content model, the ingredients of that model came from day one and day two. And then, with the facilitation, the breakout and sharing with each other, like even on the breaks, people are like, well, yeah, but what are your pillars? Oh, you're going to do that. Oh, did you hear yourself say this
Mm-hmm.
in the room? That's what you're going to say on social. Like, that's what you say consistently, congruently to guide people into your ecosystem. And so, yeah, I feel like it was a perfect flow from a high level. And also I will say too, that as a part of my prep, I've become obsessed with frameworks now because it was a muscle I didn't used to learn or I didn't know. And about 5 years ago, I started learning it and knowing it. But also I would say, and I would actually want your feedback on this, there have been previous events where people have had breakthroughs, but I've been so inefficient in delivery because I just kept talking and talking and talking and talking. And it was almost like pick up some spaghetti that lands. But this one, everything tied into a repeatable, almost workout or prescription slip to leave with, to be able to, yes, I'm going to follow that. Yes, I'm going to follow that. Did you see that as
Mm-hmm.
well?
Yeah. In regards to with like the first point of you saying that you're like, you almost like filled the space and people's breakthroughs come in you pausing
Mm-hmm.
and listening. And I noticed that like at this event, you did a lot more listening. And
Mm-hmm.
that is where I think a lot of people, especially our external processors, were able to actually process it, get it out, and then have their breakthrough. And then by you having the very clear structure or the very clear structure, it was so much easier to be able to answer questions for people and just give them like, wait, what was the third step? And I'm like, oh, it was this. And it was like so much easier for people to even remind each other of what those three steps were, what the five steps are, what are the mistakes, because they were almost so easily digestible and rememberable that it just supported everybody and being able to also lessen your job and being able to give you the break that you had talked about earlier.
Yeah. 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 So I feel like it was great. And then based on the feedback that we got as well, like it was perfect. So yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
So good. Okay. So from sitting in front of the room, what did you experience and see when it came to the transformation of our attendees during the 3 day period we spent together with them?
So sitting in front of the room, what did I see for the transformations of the people in the room?
You talked a little bit about it, about like watching them integrate their habits in real time, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So, um, I'd say, to answer this a little esoterically, the biggest thing that I saw, like 100%, was a massive increase in confidence, which is almost like the rocket fuel to be an entrepreneur. Like, no one can
Mm-hmm.
build our business for us. Nobody can execute our business for us. Nobody can tell you what team member to hire or how to manage them or how to do your closing. Like we can give you frameworks, but I saw this like massive increased amount of confidence of like, oh, I belong here. Oh, I can do this. And like reminded of, oh yeah, I started this, I can do this, and I have the ability to do this. And I also have a massive support system around me to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Number two is I saw a massive amount of increased clarity. And I genuinely think that at any level of entrepreneurship, if you've had any success, if you found your first client, if you found your first 100 clients, or you're even on your 10,000th client, you've traditionally already executed the sets or reps or workouts that are required for success. And then we get inundated with the noise and the resistance and the distractions and this level of clarity of like, I do know what to do. Oh, and thank you for the feedback. I'm going to tweak this. And now I realize that if I do this consistently and keep making adjustments, that I'm going to win the game and keep making progress. And so there was also this a lot of massive breakthroughs around I am doing this and I am making progress and I am following the plan. But just like anything in life, entrepreneurship is an adjust and recommit to whatever the market is dictating, your offer is dictating, or your customers are dictating in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, and I would say that this one is probably the biggest one, is there was a massive shift in like full alignment and ownership at the deepest level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is who I am. This is what I do. And this is why I do it. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to own it because this is what the world needs right now. So it was like, if I had to summarize it, it's like everybody's volume knobs got turned up 10 degrees of like, I'm ready to be loud and proud because I also have a room of people who see me and have seen me in this, who keep calling me up to my best, and my best is my best. And that might be like, I'm having a bad moment, or I'm having a doubt, or I have some rumination coming in, but that doesn't change my ability to do this. And so those were like three of the biggest ones at the highest level. Some of the more nuanced ones were genuinely having some people in the room who have seen me teach customer journey or even know marketing realize and learn new frameworks that genuinely become rocket fuel and accelerant for what they're currently doing. Like seeing it
Mm-hmm.
land and like, oh my God, I'm already doing some of this. If I apply this customer journey everywhere, like everywhere in my business is going to get drastically better. And we even had some people in the room who shared with us that have been to 3 events. And they're like, just so you know, and I haven't shared this publicly, since applying all of this customer journey consistently, we've 4x'd our business in the last year. And that was a multi 7-figure business. You do the math on what
Mm-hmm.
4x equals, but that now is 8 figures, right? And seeing that level of clarity, but also seeing it happen at each level of business. Like there were people doing 100 grand a year, a couple 6 figures a year and 7 figures a year, and having the same clarity was huge, like massive for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my favorite ones is I know as a marketer, marketing for me sometimes still feels overwhelming because there's so much noise in marketing, so many platforms, so many messages, so many ways to do it, right? From paid to earned to owned to what do I say and how do I say it and on what platform and how do I convert them and what funnel. And to see people's brains clicking, and I mean everybody, of like, I can literally rinse and repeat marketing because I understand this framework now, and I can measure
Mm-hmm.
what's working and not working. And I know when I do X, it creates Y. So I'm going to do more of X. And like, even by taking the framework that Kate taught and people reverse engineering what has been working, someone's like, wait, I just realized every time I do this, I get more people apply for my business. I'm going to go do more of this now. Oh, and if
Mm-hmm.
I add this piece because I've been missing that, and I add more of that, it's going to bring more people into those applications. And so, the first 3 that I shared, I think were the biggest ones. And then these little nuance pieces coming in. And then I'd say the biggest one, and this is in like the tactical side, the biggest one that I noticed in the tactical side intrapersonally is that at every level of business, it requires a different level of us as a person. We get to think about things differently. We get to have different standards for ourselves, and we get to operate differently. And the way that I would summarize it is that if I want to perform and have the results as a professional entrepreneur or athlete, I also have to practice consistently every day at that level of professional entrepreneur or athlete, right? And it's more so of what I do when nobody's looking versus what I do when everybody's looking. And that one I saw land at a very, very deep level, because we had numerous people come up to me after day one and they're like, hey, just so you know, like I could go home right now and I'm clear, like I'm done. And on day two and on day three, and they're like, everything else is a bonus. But it's that intrapersonal game. And the way that I relate it to is even to fitness. Like and everybody knows I just lost 100 pounds. I did just gain 15 back because I took a month to just go on my Eat, Pray, Love tour. And I just ate so much food in Croatia. It'll blow your mind, but it was so good. And I gained 15 pounds, right? But it's going to be easy to get it off. But I also know that like once I reach a goal, the same actions and behaviors and mindset that got me to that goal isn't going to help me keep growing. If I keep following that plan, I'm going to end up making regression. And so also like realizing that how we practice is how we play, and myself included, forget to practice at the level that I want to perform at. And the event for me was a drastic reminder of like, wow, I'm going to get out of this what I put into this behind closed doors, and what people see publicly is the result of what I'm doing when nobody's looking. What did you see?
I feel like people were seeing in different lenses for the first time that were maybe really cloudy. Like they had the awareness, but then they were just like almost looking for the permission slip or the person to challenge them to say, we don't have to own that story anymore. Like that doesn't have to be part of you anymore. Like we can own this story if this feels good for you. And I feel like so many people like left with their roadblocks just completely busted down. And what is also probably really interesting that you may agree to as well is that what people thought was their quote unquote business issue coming into the event ended up being a completely different wrapped present for them by the end of it.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah, I'd say that, and this is with all coaching, and literally all the coaches that I coach and all the consultants that I coach, we joke about this behind the scenes of like, when you coach somebody or you hire a coach for something, you're crystal clear on what you're looking for. But then once the present gets opened, your breakthrough or clarity tends to be something completely different than what was even on your radar. And that was genuinely one of the biggest ones that happened as the undertone of everybody. Some people were like, I didn't realize me sharing this in a room full of this people would give me the confidence needed to go take on these legalities to be able to make this difference in the world. Or I didn't realize that coming here thinking I had a lack of clarity and business problem was really me just not seeing the fact that I had a relationship problem with my business partner. And now that we're solving that, we can do anything together in business. Or I thought I had a marketing problem, but the truth is that I wasn't owning what I stand for. And I was afraid to share with the world my specific view. And now I see that and I'm ready to go. And so I'd say that one for sure is 1,000% spot on.
Yeah, and that was even as part of like the VIP day. We had our VIPs coming in saying, I'm pretty sure it's this, this, and this. And then after going through the like first 3 days and then coming in, they were just like, scratch that. That's definitely not what it is. Like, let's do open heart surgery. What is happening here? Tell me what it is. And so what did you witness as like the biggest transformation or aha moments for our VIPs?
The biggest transformation or aha moments for our VIPs. That is a really, 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 really good one. I'd say the biggest one that I could summarize down in something that I say all the time is that scaling comes from simplicity and not complexity. But the complexity that was created allowed for all the evidence needed to be able to focus down on what was needed to take it to the next level. That would be like number one. Number two is that a lot of the lack of clarity or the overwhelm that was being felt was because they were, for lack of a better metaphor, stuck in the pill bottle and didn't have the ability to step out of it because the the pressure was literally
Mm-hmm.
causing breakdowns, and then emotional decisions were being made under that pressure that were keeping them in that pressure. And so having the perspective shift of like me and you and the other coaches in the room allowed them to clear out all the noise and really focus down on what those needle movers were. And then for one of them in particular was like, I know what I want to do. I genuinely know what difference I want to make. I don't know how to bring it to the world. And in a
Mm-hmm.
matter of an hour, they're like, I'm cleared. I need nothing else. I'm taking a picture of this. Leave me alone. I do not need anything else. I'm going to go execute this because this is the plan and the path. And
Yeah.
so, because of the event itself and all the clarity that happens in the event when they get to the VIP, we ended up doing bonus VIP work most of the time where we were done with like the clarity needed in the first hour or two. And we're like, well, do you want what's next in 6 months and 12 months and 18 months? And they're like, yeah. And then we even got to go deeper down that rabbit hole and deeper into those nuances of what would be coming because those pieces were there. So what did you see with the VIPs?
Mm. Very much so like being in their own pill bottle, because it was almost as if they had become so used, for two of them, I would say, like it was definitely like they were so used to how they had been doing business that they almost forgot what it could look like. They forgot to
Mm-hmm.
like go back into the dreamer bucket, and they were just so stuck in just like, well, I know I don't like this, but this is what it's currently looking like, and I'm just going to settle and I'm just going to stay here because if I do something else, and it was just like the constant rumination about what it could look like. And I feel like having the VIP day, it definitely takes out all the rest of the noise, because it's just like us and you. That's it. And it's us focusing without all the rest of the commentary from the rest of the world, all the rest of the commentary from your team adding an opinion, just being like, what do you actually want this to look like?
Mm-hmm.
How could we do this? And like diving into it in a level of just like, yeah, having it out for the next couple of years. Like that was just so cool to be able to see. And then just like, can I take this home? And I'm like, 100% roll it up, throw it in your suitcase. Let me know how it goes. Like we're
And
here to support you through all of it.
yeah, and I wanna say too, like one of the benefits, and this is a kudos to the VIPs, like when you get to any level of success in entrepreneurship, even if it's your first six figures, the magic
Mm-hmm.
isn't what am I missing or what have you not taught me or what do I not know? It's more so the creative thinking about how can I make this more me, more in alignment, and integrate these pieces into my vision and have this perspective. Just like I say with like Olympic gold medal coaches, like the athlete itself knows how to run the race. Like there's a level of
Mm-hmm.
the athlete that got themselves to the Olympics, but to go from 10th to first is these little tweaks and nuances. And what are we going to do different? And how are we going to keep this in a way that supports us? And like kudos to the VIPs because like those days are my absolute favorite days. Like literally roll the sleeves up, whip open the hood of the car and be like, hey, I know you think you need an oil change, but we're going to tune up this whole engine and we're going to have
Yeah.
5 people put their hands on it and we're going to dive into the weeds because even at the beginning when we do current state with the VIPs, and I was like, all right, so tell me what you're here to focus on. And each VIP shared, they were literally finding clarity in what the other people were sharing. And they were grabbing those pieces like, oh, I can do that differently. I can see that here now. Oh, that feels better to me. And then really it's how do we put that plan on paper to then be able to execute it until the next mile marker, right? Not forever,
Mm-hmm.
but when these pieces go into practice, they're going to create new opportunity and also new roadblocks that come up. And then that's where we get to work again, right? And I say this too, like the best athletes in the world, they never leave their coach or not have a coach until they're retired, because once you've made it to one level, that outside perspective or the person who's done it before or even sees it, what you don't see
Mm-hmm.
is keeps you in the ability to be in alignment and help you perform your best. And like that is my favorite part, bar none, hands down, like my absolute favorite part.
Yeah, there's so much reinvention that happens on that last day that it's so cool to just like knowing what they were like on day one, the clarity and the questions and the things that they had, and then like watching them at the end is like watching your kids go off to kindergarten. You're just like, we've done all this preschool prep work to be able to get you to this point. And it's like you're sending them off into the world. And so my last question for you is actually on the note of reinvention, because I noticed that even between Dallas to here, there was a lot of reinvention that even happened for you. And even during the event, you know, you were reinventing your lessons, learning all the things. And we're going to have you do a solo on like your top 5 lessons from the event. because I'm sure you could go on and on and on about it. But can you pick one for me? Like one big lesson that you took away from the event?
Actually, yeah. It's the one that just hit my intuition. I'd say the biggest one is for me was believing in possibility from alignment and not the stories that are happening around me. And what I mean by that is for most of my life and career, I've genuinely lived in the lens that if I'm available, people will like me and love me. But it was all self-sacrificial. And this is going to sound so silly, but just the fact at this event that on the breaks and on the lunch breaks themselves, I took space for me and almost put my container up to fill my bucket led to the absolute biggest breakthrough in myself because I was able to honor myself and honor my energy, which allowed me to perform at my best. And not performance in the lens of like, putting on a show, but to be present, to have clarity, to know what to pour in, and then even and every bucket be able to pour all of me in because I genuinely filled my tank and I took the space that I needed, which has always been a pattern for me of not doing it. And like, even when I go to other events and speak, I'm like the first one in the room and I'm the last one to leave. But so much of it is self-sacrificial because there was a part of me that's like, oh, they like me because I'm here. If I'm always available, they'll like me. If it's blank. And it was just more of this, like, do they like me versus am I doing the best for me and them? And like, am I giving them my best? And I think about it like, even at the Olympics, I just watched the Olympics a ton. And like, even in the running races, they don't run them back to back. They run the race and then they take 24 hours or 48 hours before they run the next race because they need that recovery time. And for me, there was a part of me that knew all the time because what would happen is Ashley would manage it. She would see me so available and not taking any space for myself. Like I'd put off peeing, I'd put off eating, I'd put off resting. And then she would come remind me, hey, I need you to eat. Like go hide for 15 minutes and eat food. But it was just this constant reaction. And for me doing that, I even had a few people come up to me and they're like, hey, I noticed you were like taking breaks and I didn't want to say anything. And in that process, I realized I got an answer to my question from somebody else that answered it even better than I think you would have. And I'm like, I think you're right, actually. And there were all these like downstream effects, but it was also trusting myself to know that if I'm not at my best or filling my bucket or caring for myself, as cheesy as it sounds, if I don't put my oxygen mask on first, I can't put anybody else's on. And it helped me
Yep.
see how self-sacrificial I was based on some story that's in my life from my childhood or trauma or even business, right? Even trauma in business or clients that have left or telling me I'm not doing it enough or you need to do this and all that intermixed noise. That was probably like the most profound breakthrough is the fact that like I get to be a human too.
Mm-hmm.
And I might be running the event and I might be facilitating and I want to coach everybody. But if I don't coach, support, and love myself, then nobody wins, myself included. And that was probably the biggest piece of clarity for me.
That's a good reminder for all of us. So, on behalf of that, we'd love to invite you to take 15 minutes to go outside, get some sunshine, especially if you're in the Montana area. Put your
Mm-hmm.
feet out in the grass, grab your cup of coffee, and just be,
Just be.
because it's perfectly fine. Being is productive, especially if you're a little BB, like an actual bee. Definitely being productive, being a bee, keeping our flowers around for life. And so, yeah, that's a good way to end.
Yeah. And I love those questions. I love those questions. So I just want to ask you before we wrap the show, what was your biggest takeaway from the event? Or even if you want to do it through me, like what was one of the ones that you witnessed that you think is like one of those big ones? Like if you were doing a top 5 recap, like what would your number one be either for you or seeing me in or even seeing at the event?
Hmm. I think my biggest one was definitely the level of like accountability and ownership and
Mm,
being able to recognize where there are areas that we get to do better while also at the same time still acknowledging and recognizing the things that we have done. And I
mm.
feel like there's just was such a healthy mix of both of just, yeah, like you've done the dang thing. Congratulations. Here's where you can also do your opportunity area of like, here's how you can grow. Here's how we can like turn the volume up. And I feel like in every conversation that I was in, and even just like our main conversations, like everyone was so open to being celebrated and being seen, which I think is so huge because we love to hide behind our laptops and not celebrate our wins. And on the flip side, sometimes we'll also hide from the feedback and the opportunities that the environment that was created was so loving that people were open to both, which allowed for us to be able to just pour so much into people at a level that I don't think we've been able to do previously because people were either guarded on one side or the other and we were able to give them the full like George hug vibe, if that makes sense. And so now like we can wrap both arms around people and give them both of it. And I'm just so excited to see where people go and rocket ship with having both sides.
I love that one. That was so good. Okay, so apparently there's a solo show coming of my five biggest takeaways from the event. So we'll get to work on that one. I will do that. If you were at the event and you're listening to this, we absolutely love you and we want you at the next one. I can't wait to see you. If you have any questions about the event, and a lot of the things that we covered here, the tactics and strategies around customer journey, marketing, mindset, or even the thinking and the frameworks and the models, just reach out to us. But the next event is November 14th, 15th, and 16th in Montana. It's probably 15 minutes from the airport in Kalispell. And it's a beautiful place to visit, and it's shoulder season. So there's not a lot of tourists here and it's incredible, but we would love to have you, and we'd love to have your contribution because you being in the room adds so much to everybody else in the room while also receiving. And we're here to help you. So if you're a heart-centered entrepreneur, you want to operate on the deepest level of alignment, you want to have the confidence and the tools and the frameworks to know customer journey and marketing and how to master your mind to be able to get yourself to the next level of business and the next level of life, please give us the opportunity to support you. We would love to have you. Just shoot either of us a DM on Instagram that says event, and we will send you the info and answer any questions. You can ask either of us questions. Both of our profiles will be in the show notes. And then if you just want to be like me and skip the line and book your ticket, because we've sold a few because we did an early release to everybody who've been at the event, but the event is capped probably at around 20 people. So we can keep it intimate. We can be in the mud with each other, be in the fun with each other, eat together, communicate with each other, and everybody gets to know everybody. Just go to mindofgeorge.com/event and you can grab your ticket right now. The tickets are live and we will see you in November. So we love you. We appreciate you. And most importantly, remember that relationships will always beat algorithms, especially the one with yourself. So God bless.